So, Mighty Morphin issue 22, or MMPR issue 98, as we get closer to issue 100 of the Power Ranger comics. Now, Mighty Morphin issue 22 is the finale of this run, or kind of is the last one of the series, but it's also apparently Matt Groom's last comic on Power Rangers for now. He could come back for more of Boom Studio lets him, which I really hope they do. I hope they bring him on board for an unlimited series or a mini series or something like that, because I really enjoyed Matt Groom's run of Mighty Morphin and the story arcs he told. I mean, he gave Rocky his own arc, and this issue right here is freaking amazing because during the comic, you find out why it's called Mighty Morphin. But not only that, just like how Matt gave Rocky a lot of great character development moments, this one's a really good one for Kim, setting up what she wants to do in the future later down the line, where the show took the character. And this issue sort of adds some in-depth to that, and gives Kim, I nearly said Cam, and gives Kim some great character moments moving forward. But not only that, if I could describe this issue in one word, it'd be forever pink. So the issue picks up where we last left off, where Tommy and Kimberly were facing off against the ghost of Ranger villains in the Pocket Dimension. And I gotta say, I love the roster of villains that Matt chose to do in this issue. We've got Ransik, we've got Void Queen, we've got Trakina, we've got Daichi, we've got Sledge. The one thing I do like about these roster of villains is they're from like each era of Power Rangers. I mean, we've got some Disney villains in there, we've got some Neo Saban villains in there, we got some post-Zordon era villains in there, we got some Hasbro villains in there, and Void Queen being the one in there took me by surprise because she is a very new villain that we only got to see in March. So a lot of people saying in my comment section when I talked about the preview pages, they were saying, damn, Matt like whipped out that drawing really fast when he saw Void Queen. But I'm sure that Matt probably knew about Void Queen way in advance if he was working on these comics, because Matt was announced to be the writer of Mighty Morphin back in December. So he would have probably planned this out months in advance and probably saw a glimpse of future Power Ranger villains like Void Queen and stuff like that. But I'm glad we got her and not like Void King or Void Knight and stuff like that, because she is like the main villain of Dino Fury at the moment. So seeing how Kimberly and Tommy can't escape from the Pocket Dimension and Billy can't teleport them out, they decide to fight these villains. And that is a bad idea because Tommy gets bodied by each and every one of these villains, because a lot of people in the fandom put Tommy over and say he's unbeatable, but in this issue, he gets curve stomped by each and every villain, even twice by some of them. But I gotta love the artwork in these drawings during the fight between Tommy versus these villains, because you see all these different fighting styles and homages that the villains do. I mean, you see Daichi sort of shuriken Tommy into the air. You get to see Void Queen doing the Freezer finger blast against him, which is really cool. I like that reference, that slick DBZ reference in there. And not only that, Ransik kills Tommy in the same, well, not kills him, attacks Tommy in the same way he killed Alex. And there's a big explosion as he's able to like destroy his armor and it goes flying all over the place, leaving Tommy in a crate in the Yamcha pose. So once again, another awesome DBZ reference. So because our villains are too powerful, these future villains are too powerful for our heroes, Kimberly has to retreat with Tommy. So while Kim is tending to Tommy's injuries, we hear a mysterious voice, and suddenly we see another emissary, and this one is pink. Now, if you saw my videos, previews, or spoilers, I already talked about this, but we find out that the pink emissary, which is definitely probably a Leela from Power Rangers universe because they all became emissaries at the end of that comic, we find out that her role is to exist beyond the known, to monitor the grid for threats such as this. And there was someone in my comment section who said, well, why didn't she do anything during Draken or any other time in the series? Well, she probably wasn't invented by then, because if you mean Draken, that was during the Kyle Higgins run, and I'm sure Kyle probably hadn't thought of a pink emissary by then. Maybe he did, I don't know, but there was only 3 at the time when Kyle introduced him. But either way, Kyle introduced him and Ryan sort of evolved him, with the blue one mostly, but we meet a pink one, and that's pretty cool. So Kimberly tells the pink emissary that she's really worried about the future because she thinks that she's going to get replaced because Tommy dies in the future, and Kim says, we get replaced. So if we're getting replaced, that means something bad happens to us if Tommy ends up dying. But we kind of do find out why these villains did appear in the pocket dimension, and the prototype of the metallic armor did sort of cause it, but it was the fear of the future that attracted these dark Morphin grid shadows, these figures that will play a role into the war for the balance of the grid. And I do like how that was worded by the pink emissary. But with Kimberly freaking out about the future, the pink emissary shows her something important, and that is the events of Shattered Grid. So now Kimberly has her memory restored about Shattered Grid. So I believe all of them, but Billy have their memories restored about Shattered Grid at this point. So almost all the original Rangers remember what happened during Shattered Grid, which is pretty interesting. So Kimberly then realizes, saying, oh, they don't replace us, and the emissary replies with, no, their challenges and their causes are their own, but they build on your foundation and legacy, which is true, because if Mighty Morphin never happened, then all these other Rangers wouldn't probably exist. So these Rangers sort of built the foundation of things to come later down the line, which is really cool. So meeting the pink emissary, this gives Kim the motivation to keep on fighting now that she knows that she's not going to be replaced and there is hope for the future after all. And after this is where things get crazy. This is where things get good. Well, the comic was good, but when Eric on Twitter Eric from Ranger Command said on Twitter that this issue was going to melt your mind, I was not expecting something like this. So Kimberly goes to confront the future villains, and they all gloat and mock her, saying that she's come here to die. And Kim says that's the opposite. She says, we know for sure, of course, but the first time in a long time that I'm thinking the best is yet to come. And then when you turn the page, you get this awesome 2-page spread of Kim leading an army of future Pink Rangers. From Turbo to Dino Fury. That's right. We see an army of Pink Rangers fighting against all these villains. That's what I meant by Forever Pink. It's a glorious moment and a really good turn page to see all these Pink Rangers come together, because you know how they say too much pink energy is dangerous? Well, it pretty much is, because it's a deadly combination as they wipe the floor with these villains. And I gotta say, it's a really cool thing to see. We've got Dino Charge Pink, Light Speed Pink, and Turbo Pink fighting Sledge. You've got Ninja Steel and Operation Overdrive fighting Daichi, and Daichi says that he's never faced a Pink Ranger before and says how formidable of an opponent they are. We've got Mega Force and Mystic Force and Dino Fury fighting Void Queen. And then we've got 2 Lost Galaxy Pinks, that's right, Kendricks and Corona's summoned here, and it freaks out Trakina because she's wondering what they're both doing here. But Kendricks, Corona, and Cassie are fighting Trakina, which is pretty cool because Cassie was intended to be Lost Galaxy Pink, but there was some behind the scenes stuff that sort of got in the way. So then on the next page, we've got Hyperforce, MMPR Pink, SPD, and Jen fighting Ransik. And then they do this awesome persona combination against all the bad guys, wiping them out. And I gotta say, it's really freaking cool. But one thing I do like is at the end of the battle, we see Jen with her helmet off, and we see a bunch of the other Rangers sort of in the silhouette of the smoke. You can't sort of make out who's who in the smoke. Maybe you can, but I can't, unfortunately. But it's a really nice moment where Kim thanks Jen and all the other Pink Rangers for their help and saying, I hope to get to meet you all for real someday. And that's a really awesome moment. After that epic battle, they're teleported back to the command center, safe and sound, although Tommy's a little bit banged up. But I do like how Billy does say, hey, how about we just leave the metallic armor and development up to Zordon and Alpha? So, although I thought it was a retcon that Billy sort of took over the project in the comics, he did hack Zordon and Alpha's files, but this is him saying, let's leave this stuff to Zordon and Alpha, where they'll probably do absolutely nothing with it and make it pretty useful later down the line. I'm only kidding. I think the comics made the metallic armor cooler in the comics, and they sort of explained that there's sort of an extra power boost to protect from more powerful attacks, which is pretty cool. I did like how they showed off in the comics. But after that, we then get this moment where Kim and Tommy have this sort of heart-to-heart talk, where Kim says she's probably thinking about leaving the team later down the line, and offers Tommy to travel the world with him. But Tommy says he can't really leave, because he says if he leaves, the team is going to fall apart and they kind of need his guidance, which makes sense, where Tommy does say he loves being a Power Ranger and he feels like the team needs him. That probably explains why he was on the team for so long until he eventually left in Turbo. So that's a pretty good explanation. But this whole scene, this whole talk, is a really nice back and forth between Tom and Kimberly, where Kimberly's like, I don't know if I want to leave the team just yet. I'm going to stay for as long as I can, but I'm probably going to leave eventually, which we all know that she does later down the line, but this issue does sort of open the road for Kim sort of having that opportunity to leave the team whenever she wants. So I do like that heart-to-heart talk that Tommy and Kim had in this comic, or had in this issue. So the issue ends with Tommy and Kim going back to the command center, and there's a big whiteboard in the middle, and this is where Rocky brings up an interesting point, where he says, Billy mentioned that you were feeling about not finding out we're not going to be the Power Rangers, just some Power Rangers, and it got me thinking. Now there's Omega Rangers and apparently some Power Rangers in space, which I love how he worded that. And our team of Power Rangers needs a name, so I thought we could come up with one to cheer you up. So there's this big whiteboard in the middle. I'm going to read out the names because the names are pretty funny. So we've got Mythic Beast, Angel Grove, Kim and Friends, Thunder Dino, Juice Bar, Zed Hating Power Rangers, Alpha's Power Rangers, Mighty Strong, Morphorific, Mighty, More Phenomenal, but I do like on the last page that closes it out, where there's a whiteboard and you see Alpha sort of saying, enjoy the Juice Bar Rangers, as they sort of head off. And Alpha's hand is in front of the More Phenomenal one. And the last thing we see on this issue is the lines Mighty Morphin, which makes sense. It's how they come up with the name, I'm guessing, but it's a good way to end the comic, because although the comic does end with the end, because we got to continue into Power Rangers next week and then charge to 100, I do like how this comic did end on sort of doing the naming, conventional naming, is that what it's called, conventional naming, for the title, which was really cool. And it's sort of the mini origins of why the Rangers are called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Although I'm sure Zordon said it before, I just can't remember, and maybe they've said it in this comic before, I just can't remember, but either way, it's a really cool way to end the show, or end the series, with the Matt Groom run, by making it say Mighty Morphin, and I really did enjoy that ending. So, that was Mighty Morphin issue 22, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed this issue. This issue was great, and I think Matt did an excellent job ending this comic, and sort of doing the last story arc for this comic as well, because he ended on a really strong note with this series, and I think he did an excellent job telling like the last story arc, because it wasn't too crazy. It started off a little bit crazy, but it wasn't too crazy. The stakes weren't too high, but it was a nice sort of cool down way to end the series, leading into Power Rangers and MMPR issue 100. But I think Matt did an excellent job with his run of Mighty Morphin, and I can't wait to see what he'll do next. And I really do hope that Boom Studios brings him back later down the line to tell more Power Ranger stories. That would be amazing. So, with that said, I'm going to bring this video to a close. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Don't forget to turn on notifications and stuff like that. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, take care, bye.